Hi, I'm Terry. I've lost 170 pounds from keto and carnivore. Thank you for watching. Hey, I just got back from Walmart. Actually, it's going to be a very busy Saturday today. Um, I'm doing an experiment. People ask me, do I eat chicken? Well, I don't dislike chicken, but whenever I like ground meat, it cooked in the crock pot. But ground chicken always seems to not be much left. And so I'm like, all right, we're going to do an experiment, and we're going to have to put a piece of tape on each one of these so I know which one it is. Okay, I put like a little piece of little tape on each one. So I want to know what chicken compares to. If it's about the same price as 73%, and I get about the same after amount as 73%, okay. But if it's the price of 93% and I lose the same amount that I have to do from 73%, I'm going to be mad. So each one of these things is 1 pound of meat. So I can see which meat renders the most amount, then we can make an executive decision. Now, a couple of these crock pots are bigger than the others, and that's fine. I've got 2 bigger crock pots, but the whole point is to see how much we're going to get left with at the end. So, 73. All right. So we have chicken in the first one. Chicken, 93, 80, 20, and 73%. Let's get them all turned on low. Low. Each one is different on where their high and low is. So low, 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 low. Oh, I'm going to add some water. I'm going to add about a cup of water to each one. I had this lean ground beef in the freezer. It's the 73%. And once I freeze ground beef, I have not had a lot of luck with ground beef being good to make into burger patties. And I want this in burger patties. So I am going to add some eggs to help bind it together. So I'm going to get this going. That should be okay. Where'd my eggs go? I tell you, eggs are not cheap right now, y'all. I buy this big 60-gallon box of eggs from Walmart. And, yeah, it's not cheap. And I didn't add any seasonings. So I'm going to waste a pair of gloves here. Hang on. Okay, so we're going to add some umami seasoning. We're going to add some Creole seasoning. Because there's not going to be any broth, so I can season it as it cooks. Some ground white pepper. With the crock pots, I can't do that because I make broth for the dogs. some garlic powder. Gonna use some onion powder. And we're gonna add some salt. Now let's put our gloves on and do this again. I just want to texture this go around. And in the past, I used to buy, if you've gone back and watched any of my old videos, I used to use hamburger, the frozen already made patties. I made them all the time. But before I dirty these up, I need to get something to bake them on, so hold on. All right, here we go. Got my seasonings in it. I got my hands all ready and goopy. You know, you could also probably add some pork panko, but I just don't want all the extra calories. I just wanted something to help bind it together. And it might be because it gets water crystals in it. I don't know. I've just always had trouble making burger patties after I froze ground beef. And I might still with this. So I may end up having to just put it into a big loaf. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it in as a loaf. I used to do this for burger patties a long time ago. I did 5 pounds and 5 pounds in the past. This was 5 and 2. So we're just going to make a real thin burger patty. Or meatloaf, whatever you'd like to call it. That's what it's going to be. I've seen where people do this, and then they also put like some cheese on it, like at the very end of it. But yeah, it's just too, like, wet is the only word I can use to describe it. It's just too wet for it to make a patty. So I didn't have to add the egg in the end anyway, but that's all right. It'll give it some extra protein. And realistically, those 2 eggs spread out among all this, it's not adding that much calories to it. Alright, now I gotta do another one. Just do this. I'll get the other one done and I'll show you before I put them in the oven. I'm pretty sure I used to do 400 degrees, but I got it at 350, so we'll just keep our eye on it. So there's one, and the other one is a lot thinner, but that's all right. So I will set a timer. No, let me use Alexa, but I will do it off camera. Side note, I had the foil on these, and all I have to do is remove the foil, and they're clean. Now these poor things have stains all over them, but that's all right. So yeah, maybe wasteful for using the foil, but it's one less thing I have to wash. And when I got all those crock pots, even though I use plastic on them, the plastic still usually leaks the liquid through, but it keeps it from sticking to the edges. So yeah, don't come at me for the plastic because it's going to fall on deaf ears. I don't care. Yeah, so okay, let's see what's next. Okay, so keeping in the meat stage, I have some top sirloin steaks. So we're going to cook these up. And since they are not ground meat in a crock pot, I will season them up as I go. So I've got this one. And that one. Now I'm going to season it. Got some onion powder, some garlic powder, some no salt, some regular salt, and I'm going to put some Creole seasoning on here. Now I'm going to cover this for 2 minutes. My time changes every week, but it's because sometimes I do it and I'm like, oh man, that was too long. So yeah, move all these things back so they don't get too hot. Okay, the timer has gone off. It's been 2 minutes. Now I have to flip them. And I leave them uncovered. So I'll do that for a couple more minutes and see how they look after I season them. No salt. Salt. Creole seasoning. Garlic pepper. And onion pepper. The ground beef timer just went off. It says it's been 20 minutes if it's been in the oven. So I'm going to rotate them. They're definitely not done, but I'll still rotate them. Alexa, set a ground beef timer for 20 minutes. So I'll come back when they go off in 20 more minutes. That'll be 40 minutes total. My timer's going off for my steaks. So I'm going to pull those out. I'm going to let them rest. And I'm going to cook the rest of the steaks. And I'll show you how they look when they're done. So here's how the steak looks inside. Please remember these are not fresh steaks. They did not start off bright red. But so they're not going to be all pink and beautiful on the inside. If they're medium. So that's how they looking. So this is the last of the top sirloin, and now I'm going to add into it the New York strip steak, and I'll do it the exact same way as I've been doing. 2 minutes and 2 minutes. 2 minutes covered and 2 minutes not covered. And I'll season it like I've been seasoning all the others. With the same seasonings. So I'll keep going, y'all. It is 9:45 and I started maybe like right at 9, maybe a couple minutes before 9. My oven timer just went off. I'm going to pull out the thin one first. I think it's probably done. Oops, I need 2 mitts. Hang on. And just set it up here and let it cool down. Yep, that one looks done too. So I'm going to set it, I don't know, I'm about to make a mess. I'm going to end up burning my refrigerator, but there. Alright. So until I get my steaks done, they're just going to sit there and chill out. So now I'm going to cut up my steak into bite-sized pieces that I can take along with me. So I'm going to move them over to here. You may have noticed as you watch my videos, sometimes I use this container. It's just a plain square. Sometimes I use this one that has a separate pocket. Sometimes I use this one that has a separate pocket. And then I have another one that is this size, only it's just one. So I kind of change it around based on what my needs are on that day. So this time, my plan is to not put vegetables with my meat. So I'm going to just be putting my meat by itself in a container. So because of that, I'll be using these little individual ones. But whenever I do like frozen vegetables with my meat, that's whenever oftentimes you'll see, or cooked vegetables, if I cook something like rutabaga, you'll see whenever I do that, because I want them to defrost and freeze together. But sometimes I want to take a salad or something that I'm making throughout the week that's a little bit different. And so that's the case right now. I just want to do individual ground beef. So what I'm doing is I am going to cut up my steaks and in individual bite-sized pieces. Let's see how it tastes since I cooked it. It's definitely, I would say, medium rare. Oh yeah, that's good flavors. So now I'm just going to go through and cut up all the steaks and put them in containers. And like I said, I do 8 ounces, so then that way everything is just all the same. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 9 steaks that are 8 ounces. And then we have 1 that is 6 ounces. So I'll just set this aside and use it for something, who knows what. But yeah, so that's my steaks. Now we're gonna get into the I don't know, burger loaf thing. Okay, we know I try to keep all the meats around the same calories. In order for the 93% to be even 500 calories, it takes 12 ounces. Whereas it is 8 ounces is 73%. So I'm doing it. I'm going to do these in 12-ounce servings. So that may be extreme. It may be a lot, but you know me, I don't care. I don't care. I want it all. I like it to be similar, so I feel good after every meal and feel about the same satisfaction. I don't want to not take something because it's not going to be enough. So I might have to switch to a bigger. Yep, I am. Hold on. All right. Aha, there's 12 ounces. So some of you had asked, like, how I knew my ounces and stuff and what determines it. Well, it determines the amount of calories whatever I'm focused on for my meals. Used to, I did so many at one meal and so many at another meal. And then I was like, well, that's dumb. Then I have to remember which thing I need to grab. And so then I'm like, well, if I just divide it evenly between the 2 meals, then I can just make them all weigh the same. And then that worked out better. So I need more of these containers. Be right back. Okay, so I'm going to finish putting all these in 12-ounce servings. And then I'll come back. So I have a little bit left, and this is that 6-ounce steak that I had. So I'm going to add some of this 93% to top it off, and then that'll be good enough. That'll be a serving that I will feel like, you know, I'm going to get full from. So I saved 1 bite for us to taste. Get a fork, because you know it's got all the seasoning on this, and egg and. Mmm. 2 thumbs up, y'all. If you don't want to do a crock pot and you want to do something like this is a great way of doing your burgers. It gives it a different taste and different texture because it dries it out versus boiling it in the crock pot. The best part of this, by doing double foil, I pick this up and I throw it in the trash. Now, this is perfectly dry and clean. I could rinse it off in my sink. The problem with these is they're so big that they don't fit in my dishwasher very well. So that's why I cover these so much, and that's why they look pretty and not all yucky like my cookie sheets. All right, on to the next thing. So now I have little stickers, and I say 93% 12. So that tells me this is 93% ground beef and 12 ounces. With the thicker ones, the thicker one, it wasn't so wide, so I was able to just get 2 big old burgers in there. instead of a whole bunch of them. So I will pop these in my freezer, and yeah. So really, with the 9.5 from the steak. So let's say 10 days, 11 days, 12 days. So I have 2 weeks worth of food just with the steaks and then this ground beef. So I have 14 days worth of food. And because I still have 4 of these ground beef and zucchini and Normandy blends, I'll be using, I try to move the new stuff to the back and the old stuff to the front. This is a chicken pie and a pork butt. So these I'll be moving towards the front, so I eat on these first. So the final piece of our experiment for the day is how much do you lose from each type of ground meat? So I've unplugged everything, get everything turned off, and let's just start down the line. First I'm gonna pour the chicken out into this strainer and see what we get. I know what I'll do is I'll put it in the strainer. I'm going to put it in this container after it's strained. And I'll do that for each of them and I'll get back to you. Okay, we've got it all done. I've got an empty container we can base it off of. Got my paper here. So we'll do it in grams. So 1 pound of chicken turned into 306 grams. 306 grams, which is 10.8 ounces. And you can see the difference in the liquid. There's really not much fat in it. Then I've got the 93%, and that is 11.1 ounces, which is 315 grams. And then here's the broth. You can kind of see it's floating at the top. And if you see it sideways, it's got just like a quarter of an inch worth gathering at the top. Now this is 80%. That is 332 grams, which is 11.7 ounces. Interesting, there's more in this than there was in that. It said 1 pound. I should have weighed it beforehand, I guess. But in turn, now I did not add the same amount of water to each of them, so this is not an accurate reading of the amount of liquid it put out, but it's an accurate amount of fat. So that's the amount of fat that came off of the 80-20. So let's see how much was on the 73%. Was 10.5 ounces, which is 297 grams. Hang on. Okay, 10.5. And here is the amount of fat that came off of that. So obviously the 73% had more. So the chicken and the 73% put off the same amount or ended up at the same weight. So you got to decide, you know, if your chicken is the same price as your 73%, sure, that's worth it. But if your chicken is the same price of your 93 and 80%, you're still losing an ounce. Yeah, you're losing about an ounce from the chicken compared to the 80 and the 93%. So anyway, just wanted to do that. I've always wanted to do that. So chicken and ground chicken and 73% are similar in the final weight. 93 and 80%, those were actually similar in their final weight. So, all right, now we know, but I've got this beautiful broth that I'll be able to give to the dogs and pour over their food, which again is why I do not season my meat when it's in the crock pot. I can just put all the, I'm gonna leave that chicken on its own. So I'll have this broth for the dogs, and I'll put each of these with the little label on it telling me how much it is, and there we go. All right, thanks guys.